Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Making Multifamily Money podcast. Haven't done one of these in a while, but very excited to have Brian Harrington here to kind of share his real estate journey as well as kind of ask some questions to myself. How you doing, Brian?
Love it. I'm doing really good. Thanks for having me. A little later than normal, so I'm a little low energy. I'm kind of a yeller on YouTube, but no, I'm thankful to be here.
Yeah, no, and if this is low energy, then I'm very low energy. So anyways, Brian, we actually connected recently because most of your content is about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, and we can kind of go into that later. And then a lot of my content is obviously, multifamily is where I made most of my net worth and most of my money, and I do a little bit index funds. But for you, what I found interesting was all your net worth is real estate and crypto, no stocks. Can you kind of just share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So right off that, like Bitcoin would be my index fund. Like when you talk about your portfolio of just how you have to stack all your savings in index funds, and then you do the multifamily for real estate. Like my version of that is Bitcoin. So been doing Bitcoin since 2015. Pretty like, and I like Bitcoin for the philosophical kind of, I guess, like movement aspect of it being better than fiat money. Like I talk about that on my channel a lot. But then real estate, the way that we got into real estate was we bought a starter townhome, and then every time we moved up, we kept our primary, turned it into a rental, and like in Southern California, the appreciation on that, starts to stack up. And so what we also like about kind of that, I call it like a barbell, is like Bitcoin's super volatile. Super new. People are still trying to figure out what it is. They still lump it in with other crypto. They kind of, all the random stories you hear of other crypto, not really sure about separating Bitcoin from it. But then real estate is kind of just that tried and true way, like the tried and true way to build wealth in the United States. So I like that mix of both of those things. And why I subscribed to your channel recently was because I think you do a great job of just like showing multifamily from like it doesn't have to be this big fancy random guru thing. Like it's just math. Like it's just math, and it's like understanding how to talk to brokers, and it's understanding how to underwrite, and it's just getting started and doing it. And so yeah, that's what I thought was cool, and that's what I've been from your channel, and I'm starting to dive in.
Yeah, I saw your most recent channel talking about like multifamily and Bitcoin's better than like a small business.
Well, okay, and truly off of that, like, and I was just talking to a broker about this the other day. I was like, look, it's not like, okay, because I've been really trying to do my due diligence, and a lot of people, a lot of even Bitcoiners will tell me, they're like, well, why are you buying real estate? Like Bitcoin, goes up faster than real estate. Like, okay, yes, but like commercial, what I really like is the whole idea of if you make the net operating income better, you're literally improving the value of the property. And then that can literally translate to the type of debt you're able to get on the property, so you can increase value. Like value add multifamily, it's just math. There's a tried and true way for that. When I scroll biz buy sell and look at coffee shops or laundromats or corner stores or liquor stores, like there's underwriting that is not straightforward. Like that's not straightforward at all. And so much of that is there's not really even a brand to buy. You're literally taking over a lease and buying inventory, and then the old owner is like wanting some extra for what? Like because like a lot of them don't even have like a website or like an email list or a social media. Like they don't have all those things. And so you hear all the YouTube channels talking about how like boomers are retiring, all these assets are passing down and all that stuff. And yeah, just the more I like think about all that, like I've gone and toured corner stores, I've talked to small business brokers, and the multifamily thing just makes way more sense to me than trying to do that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, before I went to multifamily, I was looking at laundromats, right? And then what I learned was the people who make the money are whoever owns the building. So you have to own the building plus the laundromat. And what happens is you want to basically sell the laundromat, but still own the building.
Yeah.
So that's how people make money. And when I kind of learned that, I was like, interesting. Didn't do laundromats. If you try like restaurant business, most restaurant businesses fail with like minimal profit margins, and you're dealing with like employees. And with multifamily, like you said, it's just so simple. Like it's literally, in a way, you kind of have full control over your net operating income. You can increase the income, you can lower the expense, you can do both simultaneously.
Yes.
And once you kind of master that, it's literally just NOI divided by your market cap rate. Hopefully your cap rate goes down, not up. If it goes up, your value goes down. If your
Yep.
cap rate goes down, your value goes up. That you have no control over, but the NOI you have full control over. So that's why I pivoted from single family to multi once I learned that concept. And like you said, making offers, it's so simple. Like you literally, like today, I just got 11 unit on Zillow. I text the broker saying, hey, I own a 26 unit like 5 miles away, looking to buy more. So I'm establishing credibility, right? I own
Right.
apartments there already.
Right.
Just say, hey, send me the T12, which is your profit and loss statement. Send me your rent roll because I want to send that over to my lender to underwrite the deal.
Yes.
And usually they'll email it to me, and then after that, I'll just say, hey, send it to my lenders. In the meantime, as I wait for their feedback, are you open to doing seller financing if it's own free and clear, 90 to 100% seller financing, or if you have some equity, are you willing to carry 40%? So I can do the
Yes.
50, 40, 10 loan. So I'm casually throwing that in there because
Yep.
I don't want to come out seller financing out the gate. I'm like,
Yep.
hey, like I'm just trying to be efficient here. Like I got my
Yep.
lender here waiting for them to underwrite, and I got two other offers. And if you're open to these two, I can make more aggressive offers. Yeah.
And do you always go with text, or do you, because that's exactly the stage. So right now I have a small buy box on 5+ units, million to 1.3. I'm looking in LA County. I'm just, I like the idea of it being close to home. And when I check that budget, LA County is what came out. I also I understand the tenant relocation stuff in LA County and just how to increase NOI that way. But yes, do you always go with text? Because I've been mixing it up, phone, text, email, and I do the same thing. I'm like, hey, my name is Brian. I'm experienced on the single family side, looking to take on my first small multifamily acquisition. Just being honest up front of like, hey, this is where I'm at. And then could you send me the OM is what I'm doing kind of when I'm taking off of LoopNet listings is my kind of intro.
Yeah. So like this is like, I bought both my apartments through direct mail, direct to owners. So, if you watch my channel, I actually got everything off market, no broker involved. And I had the mantra for the longest time that brokers make you broker, right? Like broker,
Mm-hmm.
it's built in broke, they make you broke. So this is actually the first time where I would say I'm kind of passively looking for deals. Like I'm not as active right now, but what I am doing with the brokers at least is you see like on Zillow. So if they're posting on Zillow, they're more residential focused. So I'm trying to prey on that inexperience,
Yep.
to be honest,
Yeah.
because the true experienced brokers will post on LoopNet or Crexy, because that's where you typically will post it. But full disclosure, most deals on LoopNet, Crexy, Zillow, they're going to be overpriced and bad deals.
Yes. Yes.
Because if someone's posting 11 unit on Zillow, they're like saying, oh, it's 50K per door. Well, I'm like, that's how you evaluate single family,
Yep.
not multifamily. So the
Yeah.
fact that they're selling like that, they're not in the commercial space.
And so agree with you. So it's on market, which means what it seems like to me is that it's a seller that has a number in their mind. And this is what I've gathered from the broker conversation so far. It's a seller that has a number in their mind. They're choosing a listing agent based on whatever, like just knowing people or whatever. And then it's basically up to the listing agent to like create the offering memorandum and like tell as good a story with the number that the seller gave them as possible. Because what I've been doing so far is I haven't asked for T12 yet. I just take the rent roll, get the gross, and then I do 5% for vacancy, 45% expense ratio, get NOI. And then so far, I just accept the cap that they chose and apply that to the new NOI where I just mark up the expenses and mark up the vacancy. And that's the first number I send to them. And I'm kind of just like, hey, like, just did this based off 5% vacancy, 45%. Like, this is where I'm at. And that's when and then off of that is when on the phone, I'm normally like, hey, are they open to creative financing?
Yeah. So yeah, it's quite interesting because right now I just been texting, right?
Yeah.
Because I think I'm just trying to fish for time, and I think these brokers are a little bit younger. So I think, and usually in my text I will say, hey, if easier, feel free to call me. So I always lay that out there. But usually I'm asking for a T12, asking for the rent roll, and then I send to my lender, and then usually I throw in there like, hey, like, are you open to seller financing? I just to plant the seed. But then once I get my offer, so tomorrow I'll probably submit my 2 offers. So I know it's not owned free and clear. So I only got 2 options. I got traditional loan, or I got the 50-40-10, or the 60-40 potentially if you know, I can get it low enough. You know, I saw the T12. So at that point, when I submit the 2 offers, usually when I'll call. But usually I'll send a text to see if it's even close. Because if it's so below, I don't want to waste anyone's time. And that's why I usually tell them too. So like I already kind of ran the numbers on this deal. So for example, the 11 unit, he wants 800K. It was listed on Zillow. So I'm sure the owner has like about 70K per door, which is about right for Oklahoma City, right? Like 20K per door. And they probably chose this broker because the broker just said whatever to get this listing. Like they'll just say, yeah, sure, you can sell it for like 800.
Yeah, that sounds possible. Yeah,
that sounds possible. So then now they signed with this broker, and then now the expectations are so unrealistic, right? And then when we come at that math approach to the broker, like they get it. They're not going to like discount our math, right? It's just math, right? It's nothing personal, but it's not what they want. So I literally ran the math. So he got about $9,000, close to $9,000 a month in gross rents. Times that by 12, and you know you can do your 95%, you know, 5% vacancy, and then for me I do 50%, at least off the cuff, and then you have that number, and then you do divide by 8 cap because I'm in an 8 cap market. So like my offer came out to be like 450, and you want 800. So out the gate, I already kind of know. Okay, I'm like almost half of what you want. That's just a straight up loan. Like I get a conventional DSTR loan. But if you want to do the 50-40-10 or 60-40,
how do you know that'll cover the DSTR? So you do that also, like after you apply the 50% expense ratio. So you apply a 5% vacancy, then a 50% expense, or you just do 50%.
I just do 50% to make it quick and dirty. Yeah. But like if your NOI, if your gross rents is 100K, right? I just 50% off the top. 50%. So it's 50K NOI, and I just do.
And then you use 8 cap because that's your market. So you have a standard cap for your market.
Yeah.
And then how do you know it covers DSTR?
Yeah, a great question. So at that point, let's just say for that 450 offer, I just would do the math. So if I offer 450, I'm gonna do 25% down. And then whatever is remaining, 70% is my loan. And my interest rate is going to be about 7.5% to 8%. And I'm going to amortize the loan probably over 25 years, conservatively. Because depending on what bank you use, you can get 20, 25, or 30. So I split the middle at 25. And I just tell the guy, like, hey, like, in order to hit this debt service coverage ratio, this is my offer. And this is my assumptions. This is my down payment. This is my interest rate. This is my amortization. And, you know, this is my cap rate. Like, is there something off of my math? And a lot of times they'll just be like, oh, no, it actually makes sense. Right. Yeah. And then I'll just be like, well, you think they would bite on this offer? And then usually I'll just make it up. Let's just say 450 is my DSTR offer. If they do the 50-40-10, maybe my offer is 550.
Yeah.
But it's still below 800, which is what they want. So I do give both offers, and I'll usually just text like, hey, like, is it even worth me drafting a letter of intent, an LOI? That's how you make offers with multifamily. And then, because I said, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time.
Yep.
And they'll just be like, usually no. So that's what I expect. So what I do at that point is say, hey, like if they change your mind, let me know. And if you have other deals, send them my way. I'm happy to make an offer that makes sense for me.
Yep.
So that's all I'm doing of this is I'm just trying to get to know the brokers.
Yep.
So that hopefully when they have a pocket listing, they send it to me first, knowing that I'll submit an offer. It may not be an offer that they like, but they know if I give Steven an offer or Brian an offer, we will make offers.
Totally.
That makes sense for us. So that's the reputation I'm trying to build. And that's what I kind of teach in my mentorship, right? As I say, hey, just make an offer that makes sense for you. They might slap you in the face, whatever. Make an offer, and then eventually someone will say yes if they're that motivated, eventually. Trust me, all the deals I made offers on, I put follow-ups in my Google Calendar for 1 month or 2 months to say, hey, just text them in like 2 months to say, hey, my offer still stands.
Yeah.
Your deal's still here. What's going on?
What time during the week? Because again, the other thing I like about your channel are just that you do a great job of like working while running your system, whether it was your mail system when you were actively buying or this like passive way. What day of the week are you kind of like doing those texts or like, cause I have my favorites on LoopNet and I'll just kind of cycle through my favorites of like, yep, texted all these people. And then I'll kick off the ones that like go off market, because we
Yeah,
talked about this too, of like you can kind of sometimes over organize rather than just like continuing to just find new ones, find new ones.
yeah, I kind of keep it simple, to be honest. Like I literally just like on Saturday, I was just had some downtime. I just pulled up Zillow when I was waiting, and I just saw this new apartment that just came up that I haven't saw before. So usually I'll kind of favorite it on Zillow's LoopNet, and then when you scroll down, you'll see like the listing agent's number. So I'll literally just copy it, and I just copy and paste my texts that I drafted before, and then I just text and follow up. So it's nothing fancy. Like if I just have a little bit
How
of
many minutes
downtime.
does it take you from seeing a new Zillow listing to sending the text?
Usually it's pretty fast. I mean, just happened. I was just like at the airport, so I was just scrolling there, but I couldn't text. So I just knew, mental note. Okay, Monday when I'm back at work, if I have a break or lunchtime, draft up that text and do it. I ended up sending it, right when I got home here around 5. So it doesn't take me that long. Like to me, and it's kind of funny. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, but I noticed that like when I was buying a lot of real estate, I just took action. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
think about it. But now
Mm-hmm.
that I kind of paused from buying real estate, I've been doing a lot of mental masturbation, is what I call it, where I
Yeah.
just think about doing it. But then, like,
Yeah.
when you think about doing it, it feels like you're doing it, but you're not really doing it.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
actually less energy, less effort just to do the thing instead of think about doing the
Yes.
thing. So I've
Yes.
been trying to like hone myself down on that. So like you said, I try not to overcomplicate. Like just literally do it as fast as you can, and don't overthink it. Like worst case, the guy's like doesn't even respond and says screw you. But I know the fact that because I have credibility, because I own an
Mm-hmm.
apartment there
Mm-hmm.
already, so they
Mm-hmm.
know I took down a deal. They know I have
Mm-hmm.
experience. So I know that like the ball's in my court in that sense. So I don't really think too much about it, but yeah, I try to do it like pretty fast because like, you want to at least get your offer there and then you just move
Yeah.
on from the deal or you just follow up in like 2-3 months.
Yeah. What about when you get like a what about unknown numbers calling you? I don't. It seems it's related, but it sounds random. Do you pick like is your ringer always on? Do you pick up like on weekend or just when you're not at work?
Yeah, my phone's always on vibrate, to be honest. And, if I don't recognize a number, my reflex is not to pick it up, and then if they're really serious, they'll either text me or leave me a voicemail. So like when I did my direct mail campaign, for example, like I would mail out letters and I know the zip codes for Oklahoma City, roughly, assuming they're calling from Oklahoma City. But a lot of times, like you said, if they're serious, they'll leave you a voicemail. And whether I got a text, email, or voicemail, I always made an effort to, within 24 hours, respond, if not sooner. And if they text me and I'm busy at work, I'll just be like, hey, like I'm at work right now, but can I call you in like 15 minutes when I'm on my break?
Yep.
So as
Yep.
long as you respond, they know you're like a live person and you're not like some fake scam person as well.
Sure.
So you just have to like respond and then live up to your follow up on what you respond with. So if I say I'm gonna follow up with you in 7 days with an offer, on day 7 you better give an offer or say, hey, sorry, I need more time
Yeah.
because my lender is doing X, Y, and Z. Because that's how
Yeah.
you really build trust. And it's super discouraging. Like I like had a student, like it took him a year and a half to close on his first sevenplex in Texas. And I have a student where he was going strong for a while, but then he kind of lost motivation for the past couple
Yep.
months. But
Yep.
that's just how it is. Like you just have to have the muscle of get the numbers, make your offer, make your creative offer. They're gonna say no, follow up in like 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
And you do that for a long time, eventually you'll land a deal. And what's amazing about multifamily, Brian, as you know, you only need 1 or 2 of these deals to like change your
Yeah.
life. That's it. So if knowing that, would you be okay making 1,000 offers and
Right.
having 999 say no? If you get one
Yeah.
that can change your life, that's what people don't realize. Yeah.
Something everyone has been decently friendly that I've reached out to as well. Like I haven't it honestly was actually only the first one that I like kind of stumbled through on the phone where I got a little bit of the like kind of just a little bit of the cold shoulder thing. But since then it hasn't really been that way. What what does your message to your lender look like when so you get the T12, what does that message look like?
So like usually when I email my lender, I'll send them the T12 and the rent roll. And usually lenders, they'll ask you, what offer do you want to make? Even though they know, in reality, the lender has all the control because they're putting in most of the money in the deal. So I already did my NOI divide my cap rate. I say, hey, I'm thinking of offering this much. And of course, I know that they're going to accept what offer I make because it's going to hit the DSTR. So it's a very simple email. Like I have like 2 mortgage brokers I work with. I work the BMO, a couple people I just send the same email, forward it to multiple of them with the T12. And a lot of times they might want like my personal financial statement if I haven't done one recently. So I make sure I have an updated one. They might want my real estate schedule owned. So like you just have all that like ready to go. And it's like usually like 4 documents I email them: the personal financial statement, the real estate schedule owned, the rent and the rent roll. And then usually if they ask, they usually will ask like, oh, like what's the age of the property? What's the age of the roof? If they go more granular, have that there. Like once again, it's a really quick email. Like the lenders, you don't have to convince them. Like obviously, like if you did your own math already, like they're gonna approve that deal all day. Like, I know at the offer I'm making, they will lend it on it all day easily.
Yeah. Here's where I ran into that. So I've been leaning towards using. So I interviewed a bunch of small banks, and then I kind of found like I've been leaning towards using bridge debt to acquire it and then refinance out of the bridge into that. And so I emailed like one broker or one loan officer a pro forma, and I was like, hey, if I hit these, like help me continue to just dial this in. If I hit these pro forma numbers, what would the cash out refinance look like for you? And he ended up sending back this really low number. And I was like, wait a minute, like what am I missing here? And it was, what I was missing was I was all thinking in terms of like, I bumped the NOI by like $25,000. So that contributes to this much value add. Like, look at that. And he was like, he was still just looking that even the pro forma rents would still just match the DSTR. And so you hit the DSTR ceiling before you hit the LTV ceiling is something I had to, that math hit me in real time this last week.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at like LA, the cap rates would be lower, right? So it's not going to be as cash flowing. Like, LA is probably like a 4 or 5 cap or even less versus like Oklahoma, it's like 8, 9, 10 cap potentially. But yeah, it's just really math. And then what's nice about the lender too is like they're also like your big brother over your shoulder, because they're putting most of the money in the deal, so they want to make sure it's a good deal too, and the upside's there. And I tell them like my plan is usually, so bridge debt, what you're doing is you're buying value add multifamily, where you're buying it, you're gonna fix it up, and whatever down payment you put in plus your renovation costs, that needs to be 75% of the new value that you're gonna force it to. And that's how you do the perfect BRRRR strategy. Right, which is what you're alluding to. And like you said, you're either limited by the debt service coverage ratio or whatever 75% is of the cash out refinance. So, but to your point, in this day and age, given higher interest rates and higher cap rates, lower values, you're limited by the debt service coverage ratio. So like, for example, my 26 unit apartment complex, I bought for $500,000. I put $300,000 into it. I'm all in for $800,000. It's worth $1.6 million today. If I were to do a cash out refinance, my limiting factor, I can't pull out 75% of the value of 1.6. I can only pull up to maybe 50, 60% of that, which is still $800,000, which is like all my money. Right? Because they want to make sure that you have enough cash flow to still cover that new loan, and the loan's harder to cover if your interest rate is 8% versus 4%. So yeah, that is a limitation, but it's still part of your net worth, right? So but that's just kind of this environment. And it's kind of funny, like you said, the brokers are more responsive. So during COVID, brokers will never respond to you because they had so much deals. You could be a shitty broker, loan officer, and you'll get business. Today, right now, 2025, loan officers are hurting, realtors are hurting, and brokers are hurting. So what does that mean? They have more time for you. They're going to be nice for you. Like I hired a broker for a 50 unit in Oklahoma, Enid, Oklahoma, near my 20 unit. They would call me once a week if I didn't respond. And during COVID, that never happened. They wouldn't even pick up the phone. Right. And then like if they did pick up the phone, they're like, give me an LOI. And then I would send an LOI. They just wouldn't even respond to that. And I knew that it just wasn't enough for them. So it's kind of funny how it shifted where now they're nice when they're a little bit, times are tough for them.
Right.
But that's why I like, my direct mail strategy when I'm more serious, because it works anytime. Because I'm just going straight to the seller, and I want to get to the seller before their expectations are so unrealistic in terms of price. Because I tell them, I'm like, I can take down this deal right now if you give me my price.
What makes the seller have the price that they have?
Yeah, it's so crazy. From my opinion, it's literally arbitrary. Like they just
Yeah.
said, "Oh, I heard like a realtor friend of mine who like may sells one or two houses a year say, yeah, this thing might be worth like 2-3 million."
So are they not? So they don't know multifamily math, or like I don't get it. They don't.
Yeah,
They just don't think about it in that way.
a lot of people that buy multifamily, like you're talking 5 to like 50 units, they're not sophisticated. They're typically a business owner who's like in his upper 60s to 70s, and their CPA told him, hey, if you own real estate and you're married, you might qualify as a real estate professional status and you can buy some nice tax write-offs. So a lot of these mom and pop owners, they don't have property management. They do their own property management. They do their own pest control. They do their own maintenance. The guy I bought my 26 unit from, he was a lawyer, owned a law firm. He did everything himself. And like it's not scalable. And he hasn't raised rents in like 5 to 8 years because why raise the rents? Because he owns the property free and clear. His tax basis, property tax basis is low. He locked in great insurance rates. And he can rent it. He was renting it for 350, but market rent was 700. But
Yeah.
he doesn't care because like if it's a vacancy, it's more work for him because he has to go
Yeah.
there, clean up the property, show the property. So like he's not incentivized to like rock the boat, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, because of that, they just aren't sophisticated, right? Like you would think like for me, I'm like, well, you always got to raise your rents, right? Because I think of it as
Yeah.
like a business. Like you don't want to be too far below market rents. You want to be like,
Yeah.
I like to be about maybe 5 to 10% below. So I have that little gap, right? To know that,
Yeah.
hey, I want to be a little bit cheaper so people stay a little bit longer. If I have less turnover, it helps increase my NOI actually.
Yeah.
So you have to treat it like a business, but like it's weird. Like what I learned is don't project your mindset to the seller's mindset. Like just
Mm-hmm.
because we're sophisticated doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
they are. And a lot of times, like they just don't want to deal with a real estate agent or a broker. That's why they go to me. But if they go to a real estate agent or broker, to be honest, they could probably get a better price, but it may not be that much higher than what they're thinking, right? Like when I was selling my mobile home park, I have videos talking about it, ended up, losing 100K on it. But he was just like, oh yeah, like, you can sell this for like $2 million. And I was excited. I was like, ooh, I would make $300,000 on this bad deal.
Yeah.
But after a while, he just set my expectations so high, and then later they just beat you down. And then
Yeah.
I ended up selling for $1.5 million, losing $100,000 on it.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, brokers, I hate to say it, that they might just like sell you some like, hey, you can sell it for 2 million, but then beat you down later. And because they're the
Well,
middleman.
they also might not know though. Also,
True,
like
true.
they just don't. They might not think like an operator either. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be ignorance. Like the benefit of the
Yeah.
doubt is they're just stupid and don't know, right? And
Yeah.
but like that's like once I start showing them the math, or I ask them like, well, how do you evaluate this property? And then they'll pause. Well, it's price per door, and I was just like, no, like lenders will underwrite it based on the income, not price per door,
Yeah.
right? So and they'll just be like, oh shoot, because they're
What
thinking
was the
residential.
profile? What was the profile of the buyer that took that over from you?
My mobile home park. So it was an investor as well, and well, ironically, that person found me somehow because I have a
Yeah.
second lien position on the property.
Okay.
They fired the property manager that I had that
Yeah.
sold it to them, and turns out that property manager, they were like stealing money, probably from me,
Damn.
stealing money from
Damn.
them. They weren't doing anything. They were paying bills that weren't even ours.
Yeah.
And they were upcharging, like giving themselves like money to like do renovations without telling us. They just bake it into the price, like, oh, it's going to cost $1,000 to fix this mobile home, but
Yeah.
they might give themselves a cut of like 200.
Yeah.
So now they're actually trying to sell it, but no, the profile of the person buying it is like an investor like me, where we're looking to buy it right. We're looking to increase the NOI
Yeah.
by renovating units, adding more mobile home parks, and then
Yeah.
doing that to increase the NOI, and then do a cash out refinance, pay off the first note, pay off the second
Yeah.
note, pull a little extra money, pull out your
Yeah.
renovation, and then move on. Like this mobile home
Yeah.
park, I had if I was able to fill up all 200 lots from 30,
Yep.
it would have been worth $10 million, and I just would have
Yeah.
finished it right around now, 4 years later.
Yeah.
Instead, I lost $100,000 2 years later,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but that's the profile of someone. And because I'm an investor myself, I know like, okay, I want to be realistic to sell. So that's why I always
Sure.
say, if the seller is motivated, they'll work with you.
Sure.
But a lot of sellers say they're motivated, but I'm like, well, if you're truly motivated, well, how come you won't work with me? Like, hey, look
Yeah.
at you want $1 million, I'm giving you 600. Let's maybe meet in the middle if it still makes sense. Or like,
Yeah.
how can we make this make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like you're almost like problem solving together. Like all the deals that I took down, it just felt like me and the seller were problem solving together
Yeah.
to make sure it closed and to make sure that the deal is done. But what the sellers were like, they're just like, they don't respond. Like they're not truly serious. And that's why I tell my students too, I'm like, dude, don't be discouraged. Like they're not that serious. They say they are.
Yeah.
Their actions are not matching up with what they're saying. So make your offer, move on, and follow up in like 1 to 2 months. That's it.
I already had one tell me that they weren't interested all through the broker, but like I already had one tell me that they weren't interested in seller financing, and then 2 weeks later tell me, okay, they're interested in seller financing. Like, so that's a pretty fast like turnaround.
Sometimes you got to be beaten into seller financing. So
Yeah.
this is kind of the annoying thing about like, it kind of ties in like leadership. Like you already know what the best solution is.
Yeah.
You have to walk that seller or the broker into that solution.
Mm-hmm.
So like I know, and I already tell them, like I can make a more aggressive offer if you're willing to do seller something creative with me. Whether you're carrying 90% or 40%, my offer will be better. Yeah. And you can close faster because I don't have a bank for the most part. If it's a 90% seller carry, there's no bank. You are the bank. Literally, I just get an inspection. If everything checks out, we close escrow in like 3 to 4 weeks. Done.
Yeah.
You sell the deal, I get the deal. If you want to do 50-40-10, maybe a little bit longer. If you want to do a conventional loan, it takes even longer, right? At least 90 days to close on this deal, assuming nothing major happens. It's just really, like I said, and a lot of times I'll make multiple offers. Like I usually submit 2 or 3 LOIs simultaneously because I want to show them the difference between this is my conventional offer, this is my 50-40-10 offer, and this is my 90% seller carry offer.
Do you write your contingencies into your LOI? I've never done an LOI yet, or I started to watch LOI videos yet.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm happy to give you my template. It's just a 1-pager, but like in the mentorship program, I just have a 1-page template, and literally it's very simple. The point of LOI is as simple as possible. So here's my offer. Here's my earnest money deposit. I have like 3 business days to give you that earnest money deposit. Here's the escrow company the title company that will hold it in. You can pick it. I can pick it. I don't care. Right. My financial and due diligence is about 60 days typically, and I have 30 days for the loan contingency after that. So it's 90 days total. But I usually bake in the fact that, well, it's 60 days, assuming that you give me documents timely. Right. Like if you take 30 days to give me my documents, like I'm going to ask for an extension. And the lenders will always ask for more stuff too. Like when they underwrite the deal, they're going to ask you a lot of questions that they have to tell you, the seller has to tell you. If they don't respond timely, then it causes a delay. So that's why I usually tell the sellers I'm working with is like, one thing with me, if you work with me, is I respond timely and I'm transparent and I'm educational. So you know that if you text me or email me, usually I'll respond pretty fast within 24 hours.
When would you do a visit in that 60 days?
Yeah, great question. So typically for me, if they accept my LOI, I send my earnest money deposit, and at that point, I'll do my purchase agreement, which is the more official form. So like Oklahoma, it's online for free. It's just a template that I fill out. The first time I did it, you have to read it slowly for like 2-3 hours a couple of times. But after that, you just kind of know what's pretty generic. And you can talk to the title company as well. Like, hey, like, can you help me understand this? But typically at that point, I'm scheduling inspection. So I have to hire an inspection company, and it just depends on their availability. So if they're able to go, like, usually they give me a week lead time. So if I got a deal under contract today, maybe next Monday, they can do the inspection. But at that point, you have to coordinate with the seller because they have to give a notice to all the tenants that we're going to do an inspection, right? That they'll go in the units. So I only go on site if I know I have it under contract and I know I'm going to take down the deal. Like I'm pretty confident I'm taking down the deal. So far, deals that I've gotten under contract in, I've usually closed on those deals. There's only one deal where it was an RV park where I made the offer, They accepted the offer. I had an agreement, but I ended up canceling the contract because the septic wasn't up to code, and they weren't willing to give me the money to bring the septic to code, which was $300,000. So I just told them, hey, you give me $300,000 off, I'll still take down this deal.
Yeah.
But they didn't. So I ended up closing it. And thank God I did, because it was the same owner as my mobile home park, and probably would have lost money on that one too.
Yeah.
But
that was a direct mail. That was a direct to seller mail. And then you were doing all your conversations with them, or did they have a broker?
For that one, it was brought to me by a broker who was managing my current mobile home park.
Okay.
So it wasn't really off market, but it was kind of like a pocket listing. Like I said, I haven't had a good experience with someone's in the middle. Because can you imagine? I tell my broker, who tells your broker, who tells you, Brian, like, it's a completely different message.
100%.
I'd rather just go straight to you, Brian, so you hear it straight from the horse's mouth from me, we build trust.
So I'm dealing with that on our. So we've 2 single family homes, and we used property managers because I wanted to just get in the game. Like, I wanted to practice getting in the game, continuing to work, and just like letting it be a passive thing and like giving up control of it. And we're dealing with like a plumbing issue, and it's like our project manager talks to the project manager of the vendors, that talks to the technician that goes on site, that writes the quote, and the quote gets marked up twice through 2 subs. And it's not even the markup. Like, the markup is what it is, but like, it's the fact that I can't look at the quote on the freaking plumbing company's letterhead. I now look at it on like copy pasted onto 2 things put into this thing, and I'm like it loses all of the, like, when you're talking to a good tradesman, you feel that conversation. You're like, these are the pros and cons of what's going on and the scale of what we can do. And you then know if it happens again, like, or something related, it's like you're tracking with the logic train that you and them already established, and you can circle around the issue. This telephone game blows that up every time. And so that's for my business that I'm interested in growing, for that in my head right now, is like, I'm looking to take these 2 properties, Southern California, back under self-management and add a small multifamily anywhere in Southern California, and really have that, really take down all of that and build self-management.
Yeah. I mean, the more people in the process, there's more delays, right? It's like, for me, I personally just try to go straight to the source. Like, sometimes, like for my 20 unit, my property manager will give me a quote. Then usually out the first, I was like, well, did you get multiple quotes? Mm-hmm. And if so, send me the quotes. So usually on the quotes, I do see the letterhead from the plumber. So at that point, I have the number of the plumber. So I'll literally call them at that point and say, hey, I was given a quote by my property manager. I'm the owner. I'm the guy who pays the bills. So of course they take you more seriously because you're the one who pays. Right. And I'll just say, look, like, what's the problem here? Like, how much does it cost? Like, I have multiple quotes. Like, I want to work with you. Are you able to match this quote over here? Like, I just, like, most problems you can solve within like literally 5 minutes.
Yes.
Like, literally, that's it. Like people don't realize that. Like, yes, it sucks I have to pay $10,000 to fix a plumbing issue, but like, you can solve that problem in 5 minutes. And it literally just takes like, give me 3 quotes. Okay. Like, hopefully the one you work with gives you the best quote, right? Because you know their track record, you know them, they give you a good price. And
how do you, Steve, this is what we talked about in the long interview that you gave me for my channel. Like, how do you manage your energy? Like, how do you manage your energy and your mindset? Like, while you're working, you're doing all this stuff, dude, you just got married, like, I don't know. Does that tire you out? Does thinking about having to make that call tire you out with everything else you've got going on in your life? Or?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, like, initially when I was in the thick of it, of like buying my 90 units at one point and doing renovation, I just was so quick to taking action. Like, like, to me, like you said, most things you can solve within 2 to 5 minutes. And if you just make that decision immediately or fast, it removes that mental burden from you. Versus, can you imagine if I had like 5 decisions I need to make?
Yes.
And I'm letting it linger in my mind for the next 5 days. It felt like I spent like 8 hours on the thing, when if I just took immediate action, it's like 5 minutes each. That's only 25 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's why I really leverage to like just take quick decisions. And yes, you may make mistakes. I'm gonna make a mistake, but as long as you learn from it, it's okay. So that's the trap I fell into recently. Is like I've just been like dwelling on problems all the time. But I'm like, Steven from 3 years ago, this will be done in like 3 minutes,
Yeah.
right? Like in 5 minutes. So like, what changed? And I think what changed is because I don't have as much on my plate as I used to. So
Mhm.
now I can take my time to like mental masturbate this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for
Work
me,
expands to the time that you give it. It expands to the time that you
exactly.
give it.
Yeah, I was exactly going to say that. So if you only have like 5 minutes to do it, you'll do it in 5 minutes. But if I have 24 hours, it doesn't take me 24 hours. So
Mhm.
now I'm trying to like go back to a mindset where I'm like, well, just make the quick decision like I used to and, move on from there or ask questions or if I need to think more or need more information, because the only reason why you're not making a decision is because you lack information. So you have to find that information by asking questions. So that's how I really manage my energy. But like I said, it really depends. Like I try to do it immediately.
Yeah.
And you need to have like quick thinking and action and like you have to ask questions and get more
It
information.
could also be that you're unsure of yourself though, right? Like one thing why I asked about like picking up the phone call was like if a broker calls me, this is kind of related. Like if a broker calls me, I want to create a good first impression. But if I'm like mid something else, like I want to work the muscle of like picking up the phone, but it's like has to do with like a trusting myself of like my notes might not be right in front of me, the address isn't really right in front of me, I don't know exactly what they're going to hit me with. It's tough. So it's like I might be the like I'll let it go to voicemail and I call them back kind of thing, when no, like but then that eats up RAM, that eats up mental RAM, that honestly I probably could have just picked up the phone and just been like, hey, yeah, definitely, like, yeah, hold on, give me 30 seconds while I get this pulled up, and that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, like for me, I usually if the owner like calls me, I'll just be like, "Oh, hey, bring me up to speed in the property." And why I say that is because I'm trying to buy time for me to pull up my laptop and
Yeah.
search the property address and prop stream to get more information about it, like what's the loan, who owns it, what's the debt on
Yeah.
it, and all
Yeah.
that. So like you're just trying to buy time. I mean, and it's okay to say like, "Oh, hey, like, is it okay if I pull up my notes on this property real quick?" As long as you're just being honest and transparent. Like I'm not like when I sent out 300 mailers, I don't remember like I don't know who's gonna
Right.
call me. Right.
Right.
Or if I have like 5 offers out, I'll just be honest. I'm like, sorry, I submitted 5 offers in the past like week. Can you remind
Right.
me like which property
Remind
this
me. Yeah.
is?
Totally.
So it's okay to do that. But like you said, it's just the taking that quick action. And now, like I said, I just like pause. Like, what's killing me, causing me pause right now is you just
Mhm.
listen to I'm hitting multiple life events right now. Right.
Yep.
Just got married,
Yep.
probably
Yep.
next 2 years kids are on the horizon, and that's causing
Yep.
me to pause because like before I just was like a free range, like, hey, just do whatever I want. I want to buy
Yeah.
multifamily, go buy
Yeah.
multifamily. But now I'm like, well, how's this going to affect me? How's this going to affect my family? How's this going to affect my future kids? So that's what's giving me pause now is I cannot make decisions as fast as I used to, right? But now I kind of accepted that, like, okay, well, I can still make a fast decision, but I just know that I can't be as aggressive. Like I have to take down a really good deal. Like it can't just be
Yeah.
like an okay deal. It has to be like a really good deal and just be okay with that. Like maybe I can't buy a deal as fast. Like maybe you can surpass me in unit count, Brian, because I'm too slow. But I just know that if I get one
Yeah.
more deal, like that's all it takes. Like
Yeah.
I literally can get one more deal, like my 26 unit.
Yeah.
I literally never probably have to buy another deal ever again. I could probably just
Yeah.
sell some properties, pay off all my properties, and own a portfolio free and clear that cash flows more than my W-2
Yeah.
with no debt on it. So it's just like knowing that why kill myself and why beat
A
myself
hundred
up?
percent. 100%. I'm talking on a panel at the upcoming Bitcoin conference about fire, which that'll be pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I want to bring on like this guy I kind of like networked with when we started around the same time, and he just like
Yeah.
hit fire like
Yeah.
recently. So I want to like bring him on to like share the journey, but
Yeah.
it's quite interesting. Like the more I learned about fire with real estate specifically, because most fire is they're just talking about index funds, right? Like your Vanguard index funds.
That's exactly what this upcoming panel is about. Is that fire, at least the Reddit and stuff, doesn't really like Bitcoin either.
Correct. I was gonna segue
Yeah.
to that. Like for
No,
you,
that's
you're talking
exactly
about.
that's exactly kind of what the panel is about. And so I wanted to ask you because that's what I've never been deep in those subreddits or really that movement. But I've seen your videos about it, so I wasn't really sure how deep in the movement you are.
Yeah, like honestly, for me, I'm 35 today. Like realistically, I could probably fire at 40. and fat fire. So like fat fire is like basically you're living, I'm maintaining my same pharmacist income lifestyle, but not having to work. So for me, I only want to fire if it's fat fire or like a good, healthy, like I can still do what I want to do. I don't want to lean fi. I don't want to like coast fi. I want to like live a good life still. And I don't mind working a little bit extra for that. But most, like if you listen to Bigger Pockets, most of the fire is based on the 4% rule of an index fund portfolio. My problem is, so most people want like the 3 million, portfolio. You live off the 4% rule. What's that? 120K. So it's about, 10K a month, right? Like living off of that. So my goal was about 20K a month, which is roughly 2 pharmacist salaries almost. So that's about so if you double, that's about $6 million of net worth that you need.
Yeah.
But the problem with real estate investors is that we're asset rich, cash poor. So yes, in equities, I could be worth $6 million, but the problem is I have to sell everything and then dump that into index funds, pay taxes, pay depreciation recapture. And let's just say if I have 6 million, I have 5 million after all that. Then I dump that into the index fund and I can live off that 4% rule, which is $200,000.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one path of fire. If let's say you buy a bunch of real estate, you force, like, how else could I make like $6 million in like 12 years? Real estate or business is the only way I can think of. Right. That quick, that fast. Right. If you can get an amazing business, make a lot of money, or you just do real estate. For me, business, not for me currently. Real estate, it takes a little bit longer, but it's more guaranteed and it's kind of dummy proof in my opinion.
Yes.
So like you said, I built up a lot, but like you said, I can't retire my portfolio because my portfolio right now, yes, it might be worth 6 million, but my cash flow is maybe about $8,000 a month on average to 10,000. But the big but is, well, if I have to replace a roof, that's $30,000. I just lost 4 months of my positive cash flow. So that's a stressful retirement, in my opinion. Right. So once I kind of realized that if you want to fat fire real estate, I've kind of pivoted and you have to take some debt off the table. So you have to build up a huge portfolio like what I did and then sell some and then use that to take debt off the table. So what debt do you take off the table? For me, it would be my primary residence, because imagine my loan on my house is about $8,000 a month all in. Property tax, insurance, all that stuff. Mortgage is $6,000. That's already a $3 million portfolio for fat fire. 4% rule. Right? But if I can wipe off this from $8,000 to $2,000 a month, which is just property tax, insurance, HOA. If my fat fire, my nest number at the end could be a lot lower. Right? Because I'm not worried about this expense. And then I'm not stressed because my living expense is only $2,000 a month. So now
the good thing about real estate over index funds, though, is you always have control of the NOI lever. Index funds, I don't understand. Index fund, I've never gotten into the whole dividend stock thing. That's not guaranteed either. It's not guaranteed that the companies pay dividends. It's not guaranteed that the dividend goes up. Whereas real estate, paying down the mortgage increases the equity, increases your ability to get loans. So it's better than fat fire because you're literally still increasing income without working.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I guess the only downside is like, it's not as liquid, right? Like if your cash flow is rough that month, that's why like for me, I would want a pretty heavy cash reserve with real estate. And then
it's still, everything you said about your primary residence and wiping that off still completely makes sense. It's still just the from an income perspective, I think multifamily still beats dividend stocks for me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, definitely agree on that. And like you said, like for me, what's weird is because I'm in California, so like I have a lot of my single family homes have high equity but no cash flow. So like for me, it's easy to be like, I just sell this, crack open the piggy bank, take the equity to pay off this house. Right? I can crack another house that has a lot of equity and literally pay off my 2 apartments. And now I just wiped off $6,000 on my mortgage here. And if I wiped off 2 of my other apartments, I'm paying $2,600 for one and $2,000 for the other. That increases my cash flow by about almost $5,000 a month.
Yeah.
Not only am I lowering my expense by $6,000, I just increased my cash flow by $5,000. So now, now you're comfortable to fat fire at that point.
Yes. Well, and you know how you said like, and on your primary, you can always then open up a big HELOC,
Yes.
and that's your liquidity to like do things with. Have you done calls about like portfolio line of credit yet?
Yeah.
Or like
So
what's the HELOC equivalent on the apartment buildings?
yeah. So for my index funds, I do Charles Schwab, and they do have a pledge asset line of credit on that. Or rental properties, like investment properties, it is hard to get a HELOC, being honest, unless you go down like the private money routes. So private money lenders, where will take a second lien position. But for me, I only want to do that if it's a temporary project, right? Let's just say let's say I had my primary residence paid off and I have a HELOC on it. I would only use that money if I knew that I need a down payment for a bridged loan where I'm going to fix it up, renovate it, force NOI, do a cash out refinance, pull my money out, pay off my HELOC, and then pay off whatever money I put and got that deal kind of quote unquote free. So for me, because I know at that point, if I have a HELOC, now my expenses went up. So now I have to live a little bit leaner during that period versus when I don't have it. So it's kind of interesting. But yeah, to your point, the traditional fire is like mostly index funds. But for real estate, I think you have to make some pivots in terms of like paying off your primary and then maybe taking some debt off the table strategically so that you can make sure your cash flows. Because like if I wipe off my mortgage on my apartments, I'm guaranteed $5,000 more in income because it's not going to my loan, and that $5,000 is enough to cover my living expense here of $2,000. So I still have $3,000 to cover health insurance and like car insurance and like bills. So I know I'm covered in that sense. And now I'm not stressed where if I'm averaging $8,000 a month, or let's say $10,000 a month, if 1 month it's only 4,000 of capex, I'm not worried because my expense is so low. So like for me, my ballpark that I've been kind of aiming for is you want to be able to live off 25% of your real estate cash flow because it's so variable. And this is what I heard from people who are more experienced, fired from real estate. So if you're cash flowing 10K, you can comfortably live off, let's say 2,500 or to 3,000. So knowing that, I want to keep my expenses as low as possible. And my biggest expense is my primary residence. My other stuff like travel, food, you can tweak that a little bit easier. But like I said, and for me, I'm kind of baking in a little bit conservative because, kids, I don't know, kids are expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I want a big cash reserve. And that's what's nice about index funds too, is it's almost like my second cash reserve in a sense, where I could just pull it in a more liquid fashion. So, that's kind of one thing that I've been thinking. But it's hard. Like it's still a hard leap for me to like rewire my mindset to sell because I'm so wired to like leverage, right? Like it's more natural for me to be like, hey, I'm gonna cash out refinance my 26 unit, pull out all my money, my down payment, money on top, and I'll go buy another one. That's the natural side of me. But the unnatural side of me is to be like, I want to sell and then use it to pay off debt.
Well, yeah. No, and I think the building relationships with brokers via the on market thing is interesting. I think that passively honestly will hit and can hit the same way that direct to seller mail can hit.
Yeah, it's like a two-pronged approach, right? Like right now, this costs me no money. Like it's just
Right.
costing me like maybe 5 minutes of my time, right? Like between underwriting, contacting them, and like you said, it may not pay off today, but maybe in 2 years, one of these contacts that I texted like 2 years ago may bring me a deal. They may be bringing a 30-unit apartment complex, which is a good, amazing deal, and that's all I need to be close to 100 units and to really cash flow. So like, it's with direct mail. Like I have people call me from like letters I sent 3 years ago because they got the letter, they threw it in a cupboard, and they're cleaning out their cupboard. I'm like, oh hey, like this guy like he sent me a letter. Like yeah, maybe I am interested in selling.
That's
So
awesome.
that's really what it is. But I know we're kind of approaching on time, but curious to hear your thoughts about kind of preview. What do you envision Fire using cryptocurrency? Because you kind of did convince me to. I did open a Fidelity account, Roth
Awesome.
IRA to do the Bitcoin,
Awesome.
like the FBTC, to like just dollar cost average slowly. Like I'm not going to put all my net worth in Bit, but like add some exposure to it.
This is what I'm gonna say in Vegas, and like I was not embraced by Fire and by Dave Ramsey and by financial advisors and by the whole crowd for a lot of years. That's true. What's also true is that Bitcoin influencers didn't really lean into talking about financial freedom either. There's the way that you like dividend stock guys will like come on the live stream and they'll be like, this is the most awesome thing ever. Like, you have to do this. Like, this is awesome. Real estate people, same thing. They're just like, real estate is the way to financial freedom. Like, all this stuff, they'll come on and like talk about it. Bitcoin, it like is weird and wonky. Like, it's only 16 years old. Like, it came like out of just a really interesting history. And then because all the other cryptocurrencies created their own kind of thoughts and created their own brand that people now associate with it, that has caused a lot of mixed reactions, like, and feelings. And so what I've been trying to do on the internet is kind of come back with like, look, like Bitcoin, what a real estate person or what a dividend stock person needs to understand, what an index fund person needs to understand is like, look, there is a difference between Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency. I'm not going to say the other cryptocurrency is bad or good. I'm just going to say other cryptocurrency requires better and different underwriting. Like, you can't lump them into the same things. You have to go and choose very carefully your thesis on a lot of that. Bitcoin has a thesis that is developing with lots of sophisticated people, like retail and sophisticated people over the entire world. The Bitcoin ETFs were the most successful ETF launches in the history of ETFs. Bitcoin itself is the best performing asset of the last like 10 years, just straight looking like at the numbers of it. And then what I think real estate people understand is real estate people understand the way that fiat money lending works and the way that just money and credit systems and the 10-year treasury and just kind of macro, that's part of what draws me to real estate, is the way that real estate investors pretty well understand macroeconomics. And both of them are built on that same fundamentals that like fiat money is not a good store of value. Like, it's the same reason why you buy index funds, the same reason why you buy real estate, the same reason why real estate interior square footage in California continues to climb faster than salaries, is because fiat money, dollars, it's not good at what we need it to do. Just the cost of things. Like, inflation is like wrecks people. Inflation wrecks people that don't have savings. Bitcoin is a different way of doing money than that. And so that's what I would say to people is like, you have these numbers of like the $3 million at the 4% rule, 120 like K a year. That's awesome. Like, that's really great Excel math. Like, what happens when like groceries continue to go up? How does that count into your index fund math? You know, like that kind of stuff. And so that's where Bitcoin fits for me. And that's why, from my perspective, it was the first way that Shrin and I, my wife and I, like built our backstop, not with index funds, not with dollars in a high yield savings account, like with Bitcoin. And that's the way when we were like renting our 1-bedroom apartments and like working on increasing our salaries, that's what we were doing, is we were doing our $100 at a time, $500 at a time, like into Bitcoin, into Bitcoin, into Bitcoin. And that's what gave us this backstop that then when we went to buy like our first townhome, we were already used to saving a large percent of our income into this harder asset. So we just talk about taking action. Like, we just paused stacking Bitcoin and just started stacking a down payment, and also educated ourselves on that you only need 5% down, and learning how to calculate your own DTI, and how to learn that like, oh, if I switch jobs and get a better salary, my DTI now goes down, which I'm able to like get this thing. And so that's where Bitcoin fits for me. And I just think it's both. The FIRE community and the kind of classic personal finance community needs to understand the Bitcoin ETFs were the most successful ETF launch in history, like of ETFs. And the Bitcoin community needs to understand that like we have to talk better about the optimism. We have to talk better about the optimism. It's not just a doomsday thing. I don't super love the like digital gold analogy. Like, I don't identify with that. Bitcoin works in a good economy. It works in a bad economy. again, Bitcoin kind of makes me agnostic to the whole concept of a good economy or a bad economy, because I'm removing myself from all my eggs in the fiat basket. Like, I don't care what Jerome Powell does. I don't like, I'm not fully in that world anymore. Like, I'm betting on a new way of doing money.
Yeah, that is unconventional. Like you said, you listen to Bigger Pockets Money. And what's kind of cool too is like you've been doing this for like, 10 years plus. And what I tell everyone is like, if you do anything for 10 years plus, you can make a killing from it. Right.
Yep.
So like if you do index funds for 10 years, well, that was probably 30 years plus. And real estate for 10 years plus, cryptocurrency for 10 years plus, that's when you start to master your craft. But
Yep.
no, that is really insightful. So actually kind of, hopefully they record that session so I can
Absolutely.
hear more from that. But any kind of last closing thoughts, Brian, before we end?
That's it, man. Thanks for what you're doing. Talking about commercial and multifamily. Yeah, if people want to hear more about Bitcoin, my YouTube, my Twitter handle, Brain Harrington.
All right, Brian. No, thanks so much for hopping on. And it was a great conversation and love to do it again.
Perfect. See you guys.